Hi everyone, I'm Simon Nucci, and I'm recording this for Julia and for all of you as I'd agreed to do a session for you, but unfortunately work gets in the way as it does, and so as you're watching this, I'm at Adelaide Airport flying out for work on Monday morning. Anyway, so thank you very much, Julia, for the opportunity to speak, and thanks also for recommending my stuff at the Safety Artisan to your people. So Julia has asked me to talk about my experiences in my career and to reflect on a 25-year career in system safety and the opportunities that I've had and hopefully that you can have as well. So I'm very happy to do so. Thank you very much, Julia. So first of all, I should give you a bit of background in my career so that you can have some context. So back in the 1980s, I did a Bachelor of Engineering Honours course at Southampton University in the UK in aerospace systems engineering. So, and as you can see from the pictures, a lot of my career has been in aerospace. So I joined the Air Force. In fact, I was sponsored through university by the Air Force. But I didn't get into safety at all to start with, or not especially. I had what you might call regular jobs in the Air Force as an engineer officer. First of all, at General Engineering Flight. So that's the people who look after all the ground equipment that supports the aeroplanes. So the electrical generators, the hydraulic kits, all sorts of things. Also, I had painters and finishers, the workshops people, and people doing welding on the aircraft thrust reverse buckets, because the Tornado, that's the one there, that's a Tornado. It's got sort of clamshell reverse thrust buckets at the back to slow it down on landing. And those used to crack quite a lot. So the welders used to have to repair those. So I had a really wide range of people there. And then I moved to a squadron. So, and again, a Tornado squadron. And so I was a junior engineering officer there, which was great fun, looking after the airworthiness of the aircraft, and also some aspects of loading special weapons onto the aircraft and the safety of the aircraft system. So that was quite an eye-opener. So after that second tour, and those were both quite short tours because we were pushing a lot of people through their career at the time. The Air Force had recruited a lot of people to fix a backlog, or to fix a shortfall in recruiting. And from there, I joined the what's called the Air Defence Variant Software Maintenance Team. So it was the air defense variant of the Tornado. So that's the bomber. So the air defense variant, the ADV or the F3, had a longer nose with a different radar and missiles under the fuselage. And I was on the software maintenance team where we were making small but vital changes to improve the functionality of the jet, and doing so quite quickly. These days we call it DevOps, but that term was unknown at that time. So things, it's was it plus ça change? Things change, but things stay the same. So after those three tours, I then moved to the UK International Air Forces Field Team for the Eurofighter. So there's a Eurofighter. There's a prototype one, you can tell because it's got the short engine. But so the Eurofighter, this was in the mid to late 90s. I was there. So I was part of a four-nation team supporting the introduction of the aircraft, which was very late and very over budget, but never mind. So after that, I took a year out, and the Air Force paid for me to do a master's degree in safety critical systems engineering at York University, which was a wonderful opportunity. I was very lucky to do it and do it full time, because I've helped and watched a lot of people do their degrees part-time while having work and family. and it's really hard. So I got an opportunity to do that, for which I'm very grateful. So after that, I went to what was called the software supportability team in still in the Air Force, and we were helping lots of different projects and programs with their software supportability. So don't just buy some stuff and then go, oh, it costs an arm and a leg to look after this stuff and we can't afford it anymore, but to actually think about how they would do software support, not just the hardware support, which the Air Force was used to. So we were adding that. And it was there actually that I first really got into training, because we developed the team had developed a software supportability course, or a software introduction to service course, but it hadn't really gone anywhere. So when I saw this, I thought, well, this is great stuff. We must push this forward. So we did. And then my final job in the Air Force was we called it an IPT, an integrated project team. Here in Australia, we would call that a SPO, a system program office. Okay, we use the American terminology in Australia. So I went to the Eurofighter Typhoon system program office, and I was an engineering authority for some of the systems on the plane, which was very interesting and at times very exciting for all the wrong reasons. But anyway, so I left the Air Force in 2006 after 20 years of service, and I joined a firm called Kinetic, who many of you will know. They're Kinetic are over here. They bought some firms. And I did 5.5 years with Kinetic as a consultant, still working mainly with the Air Force, mainly in aviation, but doing safety now full time and enjoying it very much. And then after 5.5 years with Kinetic, I joined another consultancy, Fraser Nash Consultancy in the UK, and I joined them with the intention of coming to Australia. So I joined Fraser Nash in the January of 2012, and then we flew over to Australia landed on the 2nd of November, I think it was, 2012. And so I did 10 years with Fraser Nash doing consultancy over here in Australia, doing all sorts of stuff, although ironically very little on aircraft. And I spent a lot of my career on the Future Submarine program. And that little illustration there, that was the, what do we call it, the design. We did a kind of exhibition or example design in order to refine the requirements that the Navy was coming up with. So I did several years on Future Sub. I forget how many exactly, I think 4 or 5. And then after a while, I left because it was a very dysfunctional place. It was actually bad for my mental health. So I got out, I'm glad to say, back in 2018, I think it was, and then did other work with Fraser Nash, offshore patrol vessel, all sorts of things. And then in January of last year, after COVID, I decided I needed to move on. I'd done 10 years at Fraser Nash, and so I joined Raytheon Australia and became the system safety discipline lead for Raytheon, which is a dream job. It's fantastic. So I get to maintain all of the competency framework and take part in recruiting people and training and developing people, and I also get to help out a lot of projects. So I get to invited in to help out as a senior person if they're short of staff or if they've got problems, and that's a very rewarding role. Quite challenging at times, but that's good. I enjoy that. So that, in a brief nutshell, is my career. And so what kinds of safety have I done in my career? So, and there are different kinds, as maybe you will know. So first of all, when I started off in general engineering flight, it was all workplace safety. So Health and Safety at Work Act, trying to stop people hurting themselves or getting hurt in accidents in the workplace. So yeah, very bread and butter WHS, we would call it over here, work health and safety. And then moving to the squadron, so a lot of airworthiness. So everything we did to an aeroplane was done under a strict permit to work system and a strict competency system, etc., etc. Lots of rules and regulations. And because it was a bomber squadron, we had strike weapons or special weapons or nuclear weapons, let's be honest, or buckets of sunshine, as we used to call them. And as you can imagine, there were some very strict rules around certifying the aircraft nuclear weapon system and also the security of the weapon and the safety of loading it and all the rest of it. So that was very interesting and demanding as well. So, and then after that, I got into obviously software at the ADV SMT, but we didn't really look at safety at all. We were aware that what we were doing was helping the aircrew, but we didn't really think about, well, what if it went wrong? Could we actually induce an accident? That didn't really enter into our thoughts. So that's all the sort of regular safety I did before I got into system safety. So I got into system safety on the Eurofighter field team because we were using a variant of MIL standard 882, the US system safety engineering standard. And for software, we were using a variant of DO178B, I think it was at the time, which is the American RTCA civil avionics software standard. Okay, so those are the things that we were using in order to manage safety on the Eurofighter on this enormous project with 5 million lines of code and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, these days, 5 million lines of code is nothing, but this was all handmade code. This was the real deal back in those days. So it cost an arm and a leg. So what I was doing in these various jobs and in consultancy to follow, was lots of projects. So looking at the system, hardware and software products, and also the processes that led to those products. Because particularly with software, you can't fully test the product. That's just physically impossible. You can't test it to the degree that we need for safety critical software. So you're very reliant on having an extremely rigorous process. So we were process junkies. So we have process coming out of our ears. So very different ways of approaching safety, but always within the framework of systems engineering. And I've had a refresher on that since I come to Raytheon, because we're really big on systems engineering, as I'm sure Nova is and a lot of other firms. But systems engineering really gives us the discipline and a framework in which system safety can work well. So that's been fantastic. And then if I move on and think about my time in consultancy, I would say my 15 years in consultancy, and I've said this before, I would find that customers were doing one of two things wrong usually. Either they were doing too little, they weren't addressing their safety obligations, usually because they were simply ignorant of the law. They didn't know what they were supposed to be doing, which isn't going to save you, by the way, if you end up in court. So they were in ignorance, doing too little. And you might expect me to say that. That's not a big surprise, is it? But I think the thing that did surprise me was that lots of people were doing too much. So lots of people were doing too much. They were doing lots of effort, which really wasn't making a difference to safety. And that was usually because they didn't have a clear idea of what good looked like. So they were doing all this work in a sort of vague belief that it was the right thing to do, but they didn't really know how it was contributing to the end goal, where they wanted to be. partly because they didn't know where they wanted to be, and partly because they didn't know how to get there. So as a consultant, I was able to come in and say, look, you're doing all this stuff. You don't actually need to do that. You just need to focus on these areas here. These are the key things that will get you where you need to go. And you can demonstrate that you've got there as well. So that system safety assurance, that justifiable confidence that we've done what we should have done. And also, while I was a consultant, mainly in Kinetic, we were doing a lot of teaching. We had the contract to teach safety to the UK MOD. So all UK MOD staff who did safety courses on the, it was called various things anyway, the sort of defence training centre thing that we had. So Kinetic did all the courses for that, and I was part of the team that taught that. So that was fantastic. I got to teach hundreds of people, meet hundreds of people. It was great. And then I carried that on into Fraser-Nash. So teaching various different organisations bespoke courses. So that was good fun. I really enjoyed that. And as I say, you get to meet a wide variety of people and hear about what they're doing and the issues that they've got. So a kind of it went with the consultancy very well. So I think I'm about 20 minutes in at this stage. So let's do some reflection on all of those things. First of all, what are the great things about being in system safety? I think, as you can see from the pictures, the sheer variety of stuff that you can do. So I've worked on all kinds of aircraft, mostly fast jets, but also big reconnaissance aircraft, transports, all sorts of helicopters, all sorts of stuff, UAVs, and then ships and submarines, IT systems, software in everything, a little bit on rail and vehicles, but not much, but a lot of surface ships and submarine work as well. So a huge variety of stuff. And if you're in a career in safety, you will never be short of work, I guarantee, because everybody needs to demonstrate that what they're doing is safe, to meet the requirements of the law. And also, of course, we work in defense, so we've got some very complex, potentially very lethal things that need to be safe for our defense forces to operate. And of course, after 20 years in the Air Force, that's something that is close to my heart. We need to be getting good products and processes to our people in the front line in order to help them do their jobs and to win if we need them to. So that's that's two things really, isn't it? So that's the variety, I guess, and the passion, the importance of what we do. We're keeping people safe. We're preventing harm. That's very important stuff and stuff we can be proud of. But also I have some reflections on different things that I've done. A balance between learning. So I've been very lucky to have a first degree in systems safety in aerospace systems engineering, a second degree in systems safety engineering, and also to have gone on various courses and conferences over the years and present and all that stuff. But the important thing is that we never stop learning. So we need to get out there and practice lots of stuff, do lots of projects and get real experience. But we also need that theoretical framework to help us understand the context of what we're doing and get better at what we're doing. And of course, training allows us to get out of our comfort zone and think about different things, get away from the day to day. So that's been a very important balance in my career. And I'm pleased to say that these days we take continuous professional development very seriously, and you can do a lot of different things. And by the way, because I'm a fellow in EA, if you are in EA, you can count this as, I think it's class 2 CPD. Okay, so half an hour or whatever, tick. So also, I think a famous mathematician and philosopher said that progress was the art of, let me try and get this right, keeping order while making change, and keeping change while maintaining order, something close to that. So on the one hand, we've got to understand what our fundamental principles are, which do not change. The way, the honesty, integrity, the way we act, all of that good stuff, the way we treat other people, the way we always tell the truth, and we, in safety, maybe try and not get involved in office and project politics, but stick to what's important, that we're reducing risk and protecting people. But on the other hand, there's also change. I've had lots of change in my career. I didn't really choose to get into software. I did that to avoid a horrible posting somewhere else in the Air Force. So I got into software by accident. I got into safety by accident because when I went to the UK field team, my job title didn't include safety specifically. I think it was systems and software. But I found that safety was a big part of that. And when I got into it, I really liked it. And I thought, there's a big future in this. And again, when I got the opportunity to do my master's degree, I was supposed to be doing a software engineering course. But I thought, well, I've done several years of software engineering. I don't really want to go back to the classroom. Maybe that was a bit arrogant of me, but anyway, those were my thoughts at the time. What I really wanted to do was safety. So I asked if I could do the safety course instead, and they said yes. So, and then since then, I've had opportunities to get involved in all sorts of things. And these things happen quite by chance. So you run into somebody and they say, oh, you're doing this. Could you help us out with that? So we need to stick to our guns when it comes to the important principles that we live by, but we also need to be open to opportunity. And as an introvert who doesn't like change, I have to tell you that's been a challenge for me. But I've kind of forced myself to sort of get out of my comfort zone and get over that. I guess 20 years in the military helps with that as well. So go with the flow as well. You can have a great career by doing lots of different things and trying things that maybe you thought you never would. I mean, I certainly had no idea at the start that I would end up working in Australia and loving it. And then the final thing I wanted to say was Einstein said that if you can't explain something in simple terms, then you don't really understand it. And simplicity is a wonderful thing. And I've been on some enormously big and complex projects. And really, the size and the complexity of those projects ended up being their downfall. Quite literally in Future Sub's case, because we wasted $2 billion of taxpayers' money in 13 years that we didn't really have, achieving nothing except upsetting a lot of people. So keep it simple, keep it focused, and aim for simplicity wherever you can. And so finally, I just want to make a little plug for my business, the Safety Artisan. I believe Julia already recommends that you look at some of my courses. So do please go onto the website safetyartisan.com and sign up for the free, subscribe for the free emails. And so you'll get regular updates on that for nothing, and also some freebies and some discounts if you're ever interested in buying one of my courses on the various topics that you will see: WHS, software safety, system safety, MIL Standard 882. So a little plug there. I hope you don't mind. And hopefully now, if we can manage it, we will be having a Q&A session while I'm on the phone in the airport. So if we try that, let's hope it goes well. But thank you for listening, and thank you very much, Julia, for the opportunity. Goodbye.